Hello everyone, and welcome to the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Iceberg. I'm going to be delving into Spider-Verse content ranging from quick little pulp facts to downright spoiler territory, so be prepared. Also, I'm going to need everyone to hit that like and subscribe button and enable notifications. Now let's get into the iceberg. Film split. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is one big story that the writers decided to split into two films. Across the Spider-Verse is the first part, and Beyond the Spider-Verse is the second part, and it is set to be released in March 29th. Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman is a spin-off to Into the Spider-Verse that is set to feature prominent women of the Spider-Verse films, including Gwen, Jessica Drew, and Cindy Moon, also known as Silk. Delays. Due to the pandemic, Across the Spider-Verse was hit pretty hard by delays. The film was originally supposed to be released on April 8th, 2022, but was then delayed to October 7th, which also didn't come to pass. Finally, it was officially released on June 2nd, 2023 to critical acclaim. Runtime and production. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is both the longest American animated film at 2 hours and 20 minutes and had the largest production crew with over 1,000 members. Joaquim dos Santos. Across the Spider-Verse was directed by Joaquim dos Santos, a decorated animator, writer, and director known for series such as Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, and Voltron: Legendary Defender. Miles and Gwen's growth. About a year has passed since the end of Into the Spider-Verse, so you'll notice that Miles is significantly taller and more lanky. Gwen's hair is also noticeably longer in comparison to her prior appearance. The album. Across the Spider-Verse has a banger album produced by Metro Boomin. It features voice samples from Across the Spider-Verse and various artists including James Blake, Don Toliver, A$AP Rocky, Coi Leray, Lil Wayne, Nas, 8, and many more. You should definitely check this one out if you're a fan of music. Now into the shallow waters. Bleeding from the armpits. This is in reference to a running joke in the film concerning Miles' new costume, which features red stripes down the side. Bagel. During the scene in Into the Spider-Verse, after Miles and Peter B. Parker escape from that Alchemax building, Miles throws a bagel back at a random scientist in a comedic scene. That very scientist was later involved in an accident that transformed him into the Spot, and he considers Miles Morales to be his nemesis. Manga spinoff. There's a planned manga spinoff to Across the Spider-Verse titled Spider-Man Octopus Girl. It will be released through Shonen Jump and written by Hideyuki Furuhashi and illustrated by Betancourt. It involves Dr. Octopus being reincarnated as a middle school-aged Japanese girl. Lego scene. The scene in Across the Spider-Verse that features the Lego universe was entirely animated by a 14-year-old animator. Apparently, the writers of Across the Spider-Verse were so impressed by the animator Preston Mutenga after he remade the trailer shot by shot using Legos that they decided to feature his work in the film. Spider-Man variants. Across the Spider-Verse features hundreds of Spider-Man variants, but for the sake of time, I've narrowed it down to a few very noteworthy ones. You can see Insomniac Spider-Man from the PS4 and PS5 Spider-Man games. You can see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man show up in the canon event scene. Scarlet Spider gets a surprising amount of screen time, and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man also made a brief appearance. Also, Spectacular Spider-Man makes a small appearance, and so does Peter Parked Car, as he appears during the chase sequence. MCU references. There are many references in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse that link it to the MCU. Some of those references include Miguel mentioning Doctor Strange and Tom Holland's Spider-Man from Earth 199999, which is the designation for the MCU. Donald Glover appearing on screen as the Prowler, completely in costume. The featuring of a similar branched timeline as shown in the Loki Disney Plus show. And the spot directly speaks to Miss Chen of the Venomverse, which is now clearly connected to the MCU through Spider-Man No Way Home. 42. The number 42 is very significant to Miles Morales. It was the number of the universe that the spider that bit him came from. It was the winning lottery for the school that he went to. And it also has a connection to baseball player Jackie Robinson, who played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, which is where Miles Morales is from. Video Man. In the Anomaly section of the Spider Society, you can briefly see the Video Man, a character created by Electro in the 1981 series Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Canon Event. A canon event is an event that will and must always happen in a Spider-Man or woman's life to maintain the stability of the Spider-Verse, at least according to Miguel O'Hara. Funnily enough, this term is quickly rooting itself into the pop culture vernacular and being referenced even outside of Spider-Man media. Hobie Brown, Prowler. Hobie Brown, otherwise known as Spider-Punk, was originally the Prowler in his initial comics run. The Hobie Brown we see as Spider-Punk in Across the Spider-Verse is an alternate version who was bitten due to President Norman Osborn polluting the environment with toxic waste. The spider that bit him was irradiated due to this dumping, and Hobie chose to use his powers to fight against the system. Now, if you haven't seen Across the Spider-Verse and you don't want to be spoiled outright, I suggest you click off here and come back later. To everyone else, we have arrived at the spoiler depths. Earth 42 Miles. We see during the Spot's villain dialogue that Earth 42 Miles was going to be bit by the spider, but it was transported to another universe, Earth 1610, at the last second. Thus Miles went on to lose his father and be influenced by his uncle Aaron, and ultimately become the Prowler. Plot hole. Some say that since Miguel said that Miles was an anomaly, and thus should never have become Spider-Man, that he shouldn't have a canon event, which he clearly does, with the death of his uncle Aaron. I actually completely disagree with this point, and with Miguel. Miguel is wrong. There are many holes and fallacies in Miguel's arguments on the canon. For one, when he talks about the canon event involving the death of a police captain while saving a child from debris, he shows footage of The Amazing Spider-Man 2012. But in that instance, Captain Stacy was not saving a child from debris at all. He was assisting Spider-Man in his fight against the lizard. Also, it is very hypocritical for Miguel to see Miles as an anomaly, as in his own origin story, there was already a Spider-Man before him that died, and he became Spider-Man himself by accident. And that's the end. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was the best superhero movie I've ever seen, and I will be making much more content about it, especially if you guys will watch it. Please remember to like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is an emotional roller coaster. The focus is on the characters and how they feel for each other, especially how Miles feels about Gwen. Both of them are anxious, busy teenagers, and they don't always find those golden words to communicate their feelings. Thankfully, Across the Spider-Verse has a banger album that takes all those unspoken words to heart. Now join me as we discuss why Hummingbird is the perfect love song. This song is the very definition of a love ballad. It's a slow, melodic poem that tugs at the heartstrings. Let's examine the intricacies that make this song special. Sampling. Sampling is a strategy commonly associated with hip-hop music that isolates a small portion of a song that was noteworthy and transforms it into something new and extraordinary. Metro Boomin samples Patience and Prudence's Tonight You Belong to Me, which is a title that speaks to some of those unspoken words I mentioned earlier. Just as the writers, director, and artists of Spider-Verse were able to revamp Spider-Man and Miles Morales in new fantastic ways, Metro Boomin sets the tone of Hummingbird well by revamping this old pop hit from the 1950s. The lyrics, "I know you belong to somebody new, but tonight you belong to me," reflect how Miles feels about Gwen's absence after their first film. She belongs to the Spider Council now, and possibly another Spider-Man, but Miles never wants to let her go. The next pair of lines, "Although we're apart, you're part of my heart," refers to Miles' optimism as his universe's one and only Spider-Man, and the hope in his heart that he will someday be with Gwen and his friends again. Hummingbird, Summer Song, has it brought my life back? Hanging in the balance, have you brought the light back? Gwen is the hummingbird, the most beautiful, graceful, amazing person Miles has ever laid eyes on. He's a happy kid, but extremely lonely. Although he's Spider-Man, he's got no backup. He's got nobody who could possibly understand him. Gwen, the hummingbird, is unreachable, infinitely far away in her own universe. The excitement, the understanding, the life and the light of Miles' life surrounds her. Realizing she might be all I need in this life, Gwen is Miles' perfect second half. She knows what it means to wear the mask, the sacrifice, and the losses that must be withstood. At this incredibly volatile moment in his life, Gwen is all Miles needs to be okay. And Hummingbird, I know that's our time, but stay on. Even after Miles and Gwen reunite and they share a special moment with each other, it's clear that their reunion is only temporary. I can never unsee what you've shown me. Gwen is the most fantastical woman Miles has ever met. He was instantly into her, and their adventures together, with all of their variants, are unforgettable. Would I sign up again? Of course he'll sign up again. He'll go wherever she goes. The Across the Spider-Verse album is amazing every second through, and I highly recommend it if you're a fan of the film or just music in general. Thank you for watching. Miles Morales and Hobie Brown share a dark destiny.
Who exactly are you behind that mask, Hobie Brown?
Without the spider that transforms them into Spider-Man, both characters descend into a world of evil and criminality as the Prowler. In every other universe, Gwen Stacy falls for Spider-Man, but it doesn't end well. Gwen lost her best friend, Peter, in a horrific accident, and in other universes, tragedy befalls Gwen herself. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a fantastic film that juggles groundbreaking animation, well-written characters, and an extremely compelling narrative. Miles Morales is growing up, and the pressures of being Spider-Man, while maintaining a healthy relationship with his friends and family, is becoming more and more difficult, as it often does for Spider-Man. Miles is going to have to make some tough decisions in both halves of his life to stay afloat. If you're a Spider-Man fan and want to see more Spider-Verse content, I ask that you please like, comment, and subscribe and enable notifications. Thank you. Now back to the video. Being Spider-Man is adversely affecting his performance in school and his academic future. This is obviously straining his relationship with his parents, who can't understand why Miles seems to be so preoccupied elsewhere. On the other side of the coin, trying to be the best Miles Morales he can be is affecting his efforts as his dimension's one and only Spider-Man. This city needs him, especially with the arrival of a new supervillain. Miles is failing to take being Spider-Man as seriously as he should, and that failure may lead to disastrous consequences. But you can't really blame Miles. He's being pulled one way or the other constantly in a perpetual tug of war between his promising future and his urgent present as Spider-Man. Things reach a boiling point when Miles is coming up short in both ventures, failing to catch and defeat the Spot and to fulfill his responsibilities to his family by arriving on time to his father's celebration. The city is in imminent danger and his parents are more furious with him than they ever have been. He just needs to get away from it all, to escape to another world. Luckily, Gwen appears through a portal and grants him that means. Gwen sees how much Miles has grown, both inside and out. In a beautiful upside-down shot, they share a special moment. In every other universe, Gwen Stacy falls for Spider-Man, but it doesn't end well. Gwen lost her best friend, Peter, in a horrific accident, and in other universes, tragedy befalls Gwen herself. It's a hard thing to live with. In fact, one Spider-Man might say that it's what you signed up for. Meanwhile, in Nueva York, Miguel O'Hara, the one and only Spider-Man of Earth 928B, had befallen tragedy. Last time we saw Miguel, he was much more chipper, even cracking a few jokes as Spider-Man's trademark. But when Gwen and Miles meet him at the Spider Council headquarters, he's a broken, bitter slab of a man, obsessed with the very thing that started his journey, the Spider-Verse. Miguel is now traveling down a dark path, marred by the deaths of his wife and daughter. His mission, protecting the sanctity of the Spider-Verse, is his only reason to live at this point. He takes a special disliking to Miles Morales. To Miguel, Miles Morales is nothing but an anomaly. He should never have become Spider-Man, and he is endangering the Spider-Verse by existing. The multiverse must be maintained, and Miles must be controlled. He attempts to do this by imprisoning Miles in the Spider Council headquarters. He wants to prevent him from disrupting a canon event, a series of actions that must take place in a Spider-Man or woman's life to preserve the integrity of the Spider-Verse. He knows Miles won't take to this lying down, especially after it's revealed that his father, Lieutenant Davis, will die in his very own canon event in 2 short days. But is Miles right to run? Miguel attempted a similar feat, having it both ways, but he ended up endangering the entire universe. Is one person's life and one person's happiness really worth everyone else in the multiverse? This question is the moral center of Across the Spider-Verse. Who's right, Miguel or Miles? The moral conundrum facing both Spider-Men is known as the trolley problem. The trolley problem is a philosophical and ethical thought experiment in which there is an out-of-control trolley that will hit either one person or a group of people. It delves into the dilemma of utilitarianism versus individual choice. The utilitarian choice would be to let the trolley hit one person, saving the lives of the most amount of people. This seems like the best choice until you throw in a variable like friendship or familial bonds. If the single person on the tracks was your mother or your best friend, would that influence your decisions? Miguel saw firsthand how making a selfish choice, in this case, choosing to be with his wife and kid in another universe, put everything else at risk. He understands that he will be forced to do some harsh things, but it's worth it to him to save as many people as possible. From Miguel's perspective on the trolley problem, even if the single person on the trolley tracks is the loved one, you must still choose to save the collective. Your attachments and your feelings are meaningless in the face of certain destruction. Sacrifices will and must be made. Miguel is the Spider-Man of the future, one of the most powerful Spider-Men in the entire Spider-Verse, as implied by his status as the Spider Council's leader. With great power, there must also come great responsibility. Miles Morales is very naive when it comes to the multiverse. He definitely means well, but probably doesn't quite understand the weight of his decisions. He was kinda thrust into all of this by accident, and he's trying to do the best he can. He's just as much of a hero, just as much a Spider-Man as Miguel or any of the other Spider variants. But he's not going to just sit there and let his father die without at least trying to save him. Feelings and emotions do in fact matter to Miles Morales. He has strong feelings for Gwen, Peter B. Parker, and the rest of his Spider friends. They are the ones that embrazened him with his mentality to pick up the mantle and protect the people. He will do the same for his loving father, who, although can be a bit tough on him, is only doing it out of genuine fatherly love. And hell, Spider-Man can do both, can't he? Spider-Man is amazing enough to protect his father and the rest of the Spider-Verse, right? Miles believes there is a solution, one that he's got to play out on his own, because Miguel would never take that chance. Never again put the collective in jeopardy for the sake of one person. Miles is definitely onto something, as Spider-Man has a rather long history of finding a new way, a way to do it all, to save everybody. Instead of sacrificing one or the other, Spider-Man has always sacrificed himself to save innocents. But perhaps Miguel is going about it in the wrong way. Instead of meticulously obsessing over canon events and the destiny of the universe, Miles will take a page out of Gwen's book. Gwen revealed herself to her father, Captain Stacy. It seemed like the worst mistake of her life at first, but in time, Captain Stacy was able to see his daughter, not some dangerous vigilante. He learned something very important from Gwen: responsibility. Captain Stacy is Gwen's father, and he has a responsibility to her first, even at the expense of his job. He promptly quits and is able to embrace Gwen as the powerful hero that she is. Miles' dad deserves the same chance to understand that becoming a police captain is not what he needs. He needs his son. His responsibility is to him first. The choice to make that decision, the course of events that can lead him there, is being taken away from him by Miguel. And that's wrong. It's the reason Miles still fights. The reason Gwen and several others leave the Spider Council. As Spider-Man, you must always believe that there is another way, that you are in fact responsible with the power that you wield. Miguel has lost the capacity to understand this, lost the capacity to be a true Spider-Man. But Miles Morales is just getting started. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel, liking the video, and sharing your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for watching.